The moment is here, you can stop your search. It's Comics by Perch.
Hey everybody, this is Perch. This mail takes a turn, I think, or at least it did in my head. We'll see if it does for you. So it's, hey Perch, thanks for your show. Really appreciate it when I'm driving to work and back. Although now you only take care of half my commute. Why are you going away for? We've talked about that. I like some of the people who come on and they don't listen to every show, and that's fine. Of course you don't have to. And they're like, wait, he's going away. Why? And then people start speculate. And I hope for some of you who do watch the show and you know it's not very dramatic at all why I'm heading out. You should start just answering with the most balls out crazy answers when people ask these questions. I mean, go for it. Why not? I mean, fuck it. What else? Why not? Anyway, back to the mail. I've been collecting comics for a very long time. I suspect as long as you have. I started to notice over the many years that there was a pattern that would develop of creators that would leave Marvel or DC that I would really like. And when asked why they left, they would talk about many of the same things: lack of creative freedom, gatekeeping, less access to their fans. They often seemed bitter about what it was like to leave Marvel and DC. You saw this with people like Howard Chaykin back in the day. He had a complete disdain for Marvel and DC, the big two, and corporate comics. He would go off and start doing his own thing, working with a lot of indie companies. But one thing that quickly happened is a lot of the same behaviors that Chaykin said he didn't like at Marvel and DC started to pop up in his indie work. Further, after several years of doing this work and expressing fairly nonstop how much he disliked the big two, he would go back and do work for them. I started to suspect it wasn't really that he left because he was upset. It was because they weren't giving him any work. There's a sigh here, and I'll get back to the mail, but I think what is being said here is true, except for one part. The one part being, I don't know that that's true about Chaykin. I'm not gonna say, I'm not gonna say, hey, that's wrong, because I don't know. I'd be lying if I said I'd followed kind of statements that Howard Chaykin has made outside of comics very closely. But the limited engagement I've had, I haven't noted. I have absolutely heard Chaykin talk about corporate comics, the big two, and stifling creative freedom. A lot of people have. You hear that from everybody from like a Garth Ennis to almost everyone. But I've seen exactly the behavior you're talking about for many years. People will leave the big two. They'll complain about, bad behavior. They'll complain about, politics and other things. I mean, look, Image is almost a classic example of this. A lot of the original Image founders, a lot of them left the big two, citing, kind of backstabbing, kind of nonsense, shit Bob Harris is pulling, just corporate shenanigans. And then you fast forward several years later, and you look at kind of some of the behavior of Larson. I mean, Liefeld, and again, this isn't necessarily calling people out. It's just, you did see lots of interviews about how Liefeld talked about, not wanting to get into politics and, those shenanigans at Marvel and how it was frustrating. And then, several years later, you hear that there's, massive politics and shenanigans at Image. And it feels a lot like the same behavior. Now, I've talked to some creators about this. I'm like, hey, I thought you hated it when companies did that. People get really defensive immediately. It's not the same. It's not the same. It usually is the same, though. The difference is it's you're bringing it instead of being, instead of happening to you. And this has happened forever. It happened in the 80s. It happened in the 90s. It happened in the 2000s. I mean, hell, there are plenty of indie creators who have left and complained about Marvel for, various kind of mean girl behavior and gatekeeping, and you must adhere to a very rigid policy. You must believe what they believe. If you don't believe what the group think believes, then you can't. And I don't want to be shackled. I want to be free. And yeah, who doesn't? I do too. But then they go out and they form their own little projects, and then it becomes the same. You need to believe what I believe. This is a litmus test for it. Like it feels like a trap. So I want to acknowledge. I mean, yeah, I think that's true. I don't think if you're listening to this and you're a newer comic fan, you're like, oh, he's talking about 2022 and some of the people doing crowdfunding and everything else. It goes way further back than that. Again, Image, the founders and the creators. I mean, look, you listen to Eric Larson talking about how frustrated he was with kind of some of the overbearing BS at Marvel, and then you come to Eric Larson today, and it's the same stuff. I mean, he's become or frankly always was the thing he complained about. And so it feels very widespread. And again, it's very easy to say, Perch calling out all these people. It not really, not when it's so widespread, when it's so ingrained into the DNA of the company, or the people, rather. Is it calling somebody out? It feels bigger than that. It feels like just how this business works. I was talking with someone, probably should remain nameless, and this is someone who hard defended, their company for years and years and years and years. Left the company a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, and now is like wanting to spill the tea on everything that company is doing, and it's like, hypocrisy is the word here, but it feels more baked into the personality. Anyway, I give all that kind of preamble to say I agree. I absolutely see that behavior. I've thought about it a lot. But Chaikin I don't know, that's a weird one to center on. There must be some experience there that I don't know or that I'm missing. There must be some specific thing. Chaikin's always been a kind of a wacky guy. His own little animal. But I haven't noticed this from him. So I just wanted to be fair kind of in both those ends. So back to the mail. Okay. Hypocrisy is nothing new for comics. We see it all the time. It's on display constantly. People are often blind to their own actions. Okay, yes, exactly. What was, we won't stand for gatekeeping, so come over here to our new project. And by the way, we are gatekeeping. Yeah. Okay, you're saying it simpler than I did. I slapped my head recently when a creator who said it was wrong for any company or any other creator to tell you what you have to think, demand that everyone share the same point of view on a crowdfunding company, and if they didn't, they could fuck off. Fair enough. But the thing that I'm writing to ask you about, that wasn't the thing to write. Okay, the thing I'm writing to ask you about is, why do the fans put up with it? What I notice is that you get hardcore Marvel zombies, or DC zombies, or Image zombies, or CG zombies, or any other group of fans that follow a company who seem to be upset at the abuse one company is giving them, but are perfectly willing to accept the abuse another company is giving to them. Company or group of people, I suppose. Anyway, why do fans do that? I came to the conclusion, maybe comic fans are just gluttons for punishment. Think about it. They're willing to be ripped off by too high cover prices. They're willing to let their runs be interrupted and rebooted and restarted, and they keep buying anyway. You yourself, okay, people like to remind me of this. You yourself have complained about how much you dislike the current X-Men Krakoa era, but in the same breath, talk about how you keep buying it because you want your run unbroken. That's true. That's true. So do fans just like being punished in this way? Is this maybe why so many creators are hypocrites and believe that they can just continually gatekeep and treat people like crap because the fans secretly want it or will take it? I don't want to say it's the fans' fault, but is it the fans' fault? Oh boy. Curious to hear your thoughts. All right. Just wandered into like psychology territory very quickly. Look, okay, comic fans definitely have a high tolerance for punishment. I think. I mean, just sticking with the companies and the products they produce, there are good eras and bad eras, and comic fans do have an amazing ability to go, yeah, okay, I know this is bad, but we just got to stick with it. We're just going to stick with it. I know, I know that is true. Like, look, we all have to admit it, right? Even those you listening right now, we've all, some of us have finally had enough is enough. But put it this way: if you find yourself saying enough is enough, then there is some realization there that you took a lot, right? Like when you're saying enough, it's kind of an indication that you had a lot. So yeah, comic fans deal with a lot of shit for sure. Um, I look, my hypothesis is this: comics in general are a fairly introverted business or hobby, meaning a lot of the creators, the people get into it, tend to be introverts by nature of the work. They write alone, they draw alone. You definitely have people who are more party social animals and everything else. But there is a common thread. If you meet enough people, there's an introverted kind of behavior there. And, there's nothing wrong with that. But I've talked about this before. When you take an introvert and you inject them with popularity or fame, it does strange things to people. And that's not just comics, it's everyone. You see it in a lot of places. If an introvert gets very popular, they're not, they're battling themselves. Suddenly they are more thrust into the public light. It's not something they're comfortable with. And, the behavior goes sideways sometimes. And I think, I think there's a combination of that. And then a different problem we've also talked about before in comics, which is, but that's just always the way we've done it. And this is why comics has such a hard time evolving and growing and breaking out of its shell. Because, it's why, I don't mean to pick on him necessarily, but why Bob Harris continues to get employed. Has a long track record of not creating the best results, of frustrating the living hell out of people to the point that they will leave, but he keeps getting hired. Why? Because he has experience. People are like, well, this guy knows comics. Well, I mean, knows how comics were, knows, the way comics were previously done. But if you want things to evolve and change, you need to stop doing things the way they were previously done, do new things. So I think there's a little bit of a, we set up a new comic, and then, if we're popular or if they're famous, we get to call the shots and we get to dictate things, and we get to kind of let some of our worst attributes fly. And I think there's that aspect to it. And I think, I don't think fans are necessarily creating this or enabling it. I don't think, or maybe enabling it a bit. I don't know. Look, it's one of the reasons I do these videos saying, hey, buy what you like. When you see something you don't like, or for whatever reason, you don't have to justify yourself. For whatever reason, if you see something you don't like, stop buying it, move on. I think that's healthy. I think that it's important that, you are in control of what you buy. And if you start there, I think a lot of this other stuff starts to work out. You find you have less tolerance for dumb shenanigans that go on. I use the word shenanigans a lot in this video. I think if you do that, at least you get yourself into a state of relative peace and happiness, and that's healthy. And then, if then you continue by just taking out the more toxic elements of your life. You know, like, you get to a better place. It's probably the best thing you could do, probably the best answer. Anyway, thanks for the thought-provoking mail. We'll see what people in the comments have to say about it. Interesting to kind of mull over. Thanks for listening.